Hello everyone. Today I wanted to share a commission painting I did a while back, but before I begin, let me give a quick shout out to Chris Legaspi and his YouTube art channel where he does instructional art videos. And Chris has a ton of art knowledge that I've found really useful, so if you're interested in that, I'll leave his YouTube channel in the description. Anyways, so this painting, when I got the prompt for this commission painting, I thought it was super interesting. It's a city in a world where there's no sun, and there are these ascendants floating. These ascendants are sort of like demigods, and they're floating over the city, providing warmth and light for the city since there's no sun. Other things it needed to have was some serpent motifs. It also needed to feel angular, and besides that, it was I had complete creative freedom. So here I am exploring one approach I could have with the painting, and in this approach I have the city is up above, and there are these different trade platforms that are... Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, this is predominantly a trade city, so that's a very important part of the design. Anyways, the top of the city is where the civilians live, and there are these different sort of craters built into the ground or platforms where the trading happens, and there are different administrative buildings throughout, maybe some warehouses where goods are kept as you go up the different levels in this Colosseum-ish sort of trade area. Here's the second idea I explored, and I thought I already have one where the trade area is below ground. How about one where it's above ground? And so in this one I have different raised platforms, and the shot would be this gate, the entrance to the city, and as you go in you would be led to these different pathways, and depending on what you were trading you would go down a different pathway, and the rest of the city is sort of below these platforms. So at this point the colors I'm choosing are pretty loose. I'm not thinking too much about it because I need to think about the design first, and usually it's later that I focus on the colors to try to unify the mood and the feeling of the piece. So right now it's just a matter of design to try to figure out what the painting is going to be itself before I focus too much on making it pretty. I'm trying to think about what a trade city would have, and I'm trying to think about what sort of mood this painting should give off. And I'm pretty much just bumming around looking for a design. And again, these two sketches are just sketches. They're by no means are they what the final painting will look like at all, but this is just strictly to explore the idea, also to show my client what directions we can take the paintings. That way there are no unwanted surprises, and it just makes the whole process a lot more clear. Yeah, it makes everyone just happier. So I'm thinking, since this is a trade city, I should put some gold in there, almost like it's a very rich city. So this gold color makes it feel very royal and rich, like maybe this place is very prosperous. Putting in some roadways. So this is a pretty zoomed out shot, which is relatively easy. A more zoomed in shot would be much harder, and actually later on in this project I do a more zoomed in shot. The client mentioned that he would like this painting to be landscape and not so much portrait format. So a little bit later on you'll see me expanding this and fixing, adding some things to balance the composition to turn it into a landscape format. So yeah, that's what's going on right now. Already I'm liking the way this is going. I think at this point I knew that this was going to be the better painting, which is often the case. Usually your first sketch is never the best one, or rarely, very rarely it is. So it makes complete sense that this second one would be better, because I've had, my brain's had more time to think about the city and sort of the things that should be going on, the things that it should have. Laying in some sky. This is also a mountainous region, so I'm trying to add some mountains in the background. I'll just let this painting run, and whenever something important comes up or something notable, I'll make a comment. I'm trying to correct the perspective, and it was a big mistake early on not to do a perspective grid, because I think in the long run that would have saved me a lot of time instead of just guessing at it. And it also helps your workflow, and it helps you create a better design if you don't feel like you're doing guesswork. So yeah, right now the perspective is really wonky, and I definitely should have done a perspective grid earlier on. Throughout this, I am looking up references of just architecture, buildings, cityscapes, just to see what kind of layouts they have, and that's where I'm getting a lot of the ideas for sort of the roadways and the location of the houses. By now, I'm pretty sure I had already sent both versions, both of the sketches, into the client, and he had chosen this one as the one he preferred. So at this point, I'm working to finish this one. I put some snow in the background in the outer skirts of the city, because I was thinking that this is a world where there's no sun, so it must be really cold, except for inside these cities where those ascendants are providing warmth for the city. So outside must be extremely cold. I'm trying to fill out the background and sort of the areas surrounding the city. That way I can just focus all my energies on the city, and I don't need to worry about that later. I like to set the scene before I get into the details, especially the landscape. One thing I struggled with in this painting is making the glow of the ascendant feel pretty intense, because remember, this ascendant is almost supposed to be taking the place of a sun, so it's the energy that's coming from it would have to be immense. So I have to make it the light coming from it feel very powerful, and the outside of the city is dark since there's no sun, so he's just providing warmth and light for the area immediately below. I think at this point, the only thing I'm really concerned about is getting the lighting right, or making the lighting feel, have a very specific mood. Sort of this very golden, rich city with this very strong glow from the ascendant. Besides that, I'm not worried at all about the design. It's coming together, and I don't really see this getting messed up in any way. Yep, the ascendant is humanoid, so making it humanoid. I wanted to get that serpent feel. Oh, here I am looking up some reference, but to get that serpent feel, I wanted the gate to be serpent-like, because if you're entering the city and the very entrance of the city is very serpent-like, that says a lot about the city. It says that they put emphasis on serpent motifs. So trying to add in some textures, maybe the tiles on the different platforms and walkways have serpent patterns to them, almost like serpent skin or snake skin. Yeah, there were some challenges making this serpent and angular at the same time, because whenever I think of serpents, I think more slithery, agile, dexterous sort of snake-like creatures. And to have it angular was a bit of a challenge. So you can see the gate is basically two serpent heads with their fangs out. Pretty soon here I'm gonna start refining the colors, and something really important to me when I am applying color is to make sure that I'm not falling behind on contrast. So by that I mean I'm not getting too timid with my paint. So when you see beginners paint, they're very timid with their brush strokes, and they're afraid to experiment with colors and use colors that are very different from one another, because it feels much harder to mess up when you're using entirely desaturated colors, because a desaturated blue, for example, mixed with a desaturated red is not going to give you that jarring, terrible feeling that maybe a very saturated blue and a very saturated red would. So it feels a little bit safer not to use colors that are very different, but that's what makes a lot of times that can make a painting feel very flat. So I'm making sure I'm getting as much color variation in as I can. And I'm trying to make sure they affect each other in a nice looking way, I guess. Yeah, making sure things don't look too washed out, making sure I have enough contrast in there, making sure that my shapes feel good, they feel nice to look at. And another big thing is making sure that the focus is on the important part of the painting, which is the city. There's that very bright area by the city is helping draw the focus there, and that's what the painting's about. So it's important to keep that the main focus and not over render or put too much emphasis on other parts. Recycling some of the bridge, sort of recycling some of that pathway so I don't have to repaint the whole thing. Yep, and here now I'm finally starting to get into the city, and at this distance the buildings are so small that you wouldn't really see any of the individual houses. You'd see sort of just these little marks. I'm just gonna let the rest of this painting run, and if you'd like to see me cover something specific, just leave a comment and it might be in one of my videos. Okay, thanks.